Hey, what's up guys, and thank you for tuning in here for today. I know it's been a while, and I know you're probably wondering, like, how come it took him over a month to talk about the final episode of Chucky, if it's such a big deal? And to be 100% real with you, stuff just comes up. You gotta take care of yourself, your mental health, your physical health, sickness, the holidays passed, and everything like that. So basically life was just chaotic, and finally I'm getting back on the horse. So sorry about it taking so long. But thankfully I'm back right here, and today we are back with some more talk of Chucky, and today is the final episode of Season 1. Today is An Affair to Dismember. And this episode is brutal, it's brilliant, it's violent, it's bittersweet, and it's just really exciting. I just really loved it. I thought it was a really actually good culmination of the story and all 7 parts coming together here in part 8, and it just felt like a really good actual sequential series of television. It didn't feel like something that was stapled on the end of a film franchise. It felt like a TV series that was able to stand on its own, but bolstered with expanded lore from a 30-plus-year-old film franchise. The episode kicks off exactly where episode 7 left us, where Andy is arriving to the Wheeler household while Junior and Chucky watch from the bedroom window and pretty much skulk and try to figure out what are we gonna do here. But there appears to be some miscommunication between the two, because there's this really long scene where Junior brings Andy throughout the house because Andy knows that Chucky is there and Andy knows that something is up, but he doesn't really know what. He doesn't figure that this kid just killed his dad, but he understands that something's wrong. Andy searches the house, which is really weird, by the way. If I was Junior, I totally would have told this grown-ass adult to leave. But Andy skulks around the house, he ends up searching. He does not come across Logan's body, but we have this really hilarious scene after Andy finally leaves the house and tells Junior to watch out and don't entertain Chucky if you see him. And you get just this hilarious sequence of Chucky's arm coming up from inside of a toilet and pushing the lid up as the entire doll just crawls out of the toilet as he says that he knows Andy wouldn't have looked here. Chucky ends up telling Junior why he didn't intend to kill Andy there. Pretty much he has bigger plans for Andy, and also because Andy had a gun, and he continues to list guns along his long list of Achilles heels, which is pretty much other ways in which he's died in previous movies, so fun references. Lexi and Jake are back at her house, still trying to figure out basically what is going on, why is Chucky trying to get a kid to kill, what is really happening here and why. But only just before the Chucky doll that was in their kitchen that came alive in the previous episode finally makes his way out to the living room and cuts a hole in the little, I guess, sheeting to separate the house fire part from the regular house part, whatever that is, to deliver Chucky's second shining reference in the franchise before getting his jaw blown off by Kyle through the door. And finally, we have Kyle in the fray, interacting and hanging out with our main cast of the series. And I find it really funny that she was able to catch up just fine, even though Andy stole the car. I guess she just hitched a ride with somebody conveniently heading to Hackensack. But through Kyle, we end up finding out exactly what this new voodoo spell is. Apparently, Andy told her what it is. And basically, Chucky needs a youth, a completely innocent person, to kill somebody, take their blood, basically, and then somehow that activates Chucky's actual army, where it automatically transfers his soul into a ton of identical vessels. Now, I know a lot of folks will be disappointed that, it's all leading up to some, again, other random voodoo for dummies spell, or the fact that it's so kind of, thrown over the shoulder that it's really inconsequential, the whole voodoo aspect. But I don't really mind it, and I do like that there is actually a reason to Chucky trying to get a kid to kill outside of him just being bored, I guess. And it is fun, too, because you would figure that Chucky automatically had the ability to transfer his soul into any amount of vessels he wanted because of Cult of Chucky, but it appears that these are 2 different spells, and that one can only go so far. But as Lexi and Jake are getting their Child's Play lore dump, Kyle decides to pull a really weird move in order to keep them safe and drugs children. Now, I know it does, of course, it's meant to keep them safe. Absolutely, it's for good cause. But man, something about like a grown-ass adult drugging children is just a little weird. But it's for safety. And it's so that Kyle can basically leave the kids safe while she goes off to the Charles Lee Ray house to try and rescue Devin and help Andy figure this all out and just kill a couple of Chuckies. But fortunately for us, the audience, we already know that the spell was already activated and all those dolls already exist because Junior killing Devin Sawa in episode 7. So, sorry, it's just a little too late. Meanwhile, back at the Charles Lee Ray murder house, Tiffany comes on back home and finds Nika Chucky conveniently fallen out of her duct tape chair. And while Tiffany lets her guard down, thinking that it's just helpless little Nika, Chucky actually kicks her legs out from under her and gets on top of her, and just before trying to gloat about how many times that he's been able to kill Tiffany, and he just about does it finitely, but is luckily stopped by Junior and Doll Chucky, who conveniently came back home for this big ol' reunion. And here we do see that light side of Chucky fighting with Chucky, where basically the two completely disagree. This Chucky is convinced that this Tiffany should die. Meanwhile, the other Chucky's like, no, I kind of like having her around, How many times are we going to kill her? We can't keep bringing her back. We only get one Jennifer Tilly body. We have this cute scene where Tiffany basically brushes off Nika Chucky and welcomes good guy doll Chucky into her arms. And basically the rest of the night is all of them hanging out, having cookies with Junior. Devin's tied up in the corner. Just, usual stuff. Tiffany ends up taking Chucky downstairs to introduce him to his new army of, I think it's like 74 good guy dolls, something super specific. In this shot, you have what is probably all of the animatronic good guy dolls that are built with actual facial expression for Chucky in the series. Meanwhile, the back shot is basically filled up of a bunch of unanimatronic good guy dolls from Trick or Treat Studios. So again, if you are somebody that owns the Trick or Treat Studios good guy doll replica, you technically own a screen-matched replica from a Chucky series of the good guy doll. Congratulations. But it's a great scene of Chucky mingling with Chucky. You have one Chucky at the front of the group that keeps asking this needling questions while it pretty much is annoying the other Chucky. He asks, what's the age range? You know, can we kill babies? What's the age limit on potential victims? And leader Chucky, I guess, tells him nobody under the ages of 5 or 6 because we're not savages, we don't kill babies. But I do think that's funny because Chucky was chasing Andy Barkley around in Child's Play 1 on Andy's 6th birthday, so I mean, he kind of broke that rule already. Doll Chucky ends up having some conversations with Nika Chucky, and they pretty much talk about what it's like been in their bodies, while Doll Chucky's wanting to get an idea of what it's like to be able to have an actual human body. And there's something else in this scene that I find funny where the leader, Doll Chucky, brings up to Nika Chucky that he should have seen the face of Andy Barkley when he was 6 when he killed his babysitter, and I'm like, you're the same person, and the soul split happened years after that, so that Chucky definitely saw his face, so what are you talking about? Tiffany comes over to Doll Chucky, trying to butter up to him, trying to get really excited about the plan coming together and all this fun stuff. And you have, again, just this really great dysfunctional moment where you have 2 Chuckies, 1 Tiffany. Oh, that sounds really bad. You have too many cooks in the kitchen, and they're all coming for each other's necks. So as the 2 pretty much shove Tiffany aside and tell her to, you know, go away, we don't feel like talking to you right now, Tiffany goes into one of her famous spiels about how much of an asshole and how unchivalrous Chucky is. You know, classic stuff. But when Nika Chucky ends up stepping to Tiffany, Tiffany's not taking it because one thing this series is willing to tell us is Tiffany is no pushover. She is no number 2 to Chucky. She is her own villain. Slaps the fuck out of Nika Chucky, sends her on the ground, and actually hits her so hard she slaps Chucky out of the pilot seat and brings Nika right back. Tiffany, realizing that she hurt Nika, who she actually likes, becomes upset, and Chucky ends up demanding Tiffany to kill Nika because, you know, it makes him horny. After Tiffany cries and admits finally that she can't do it, Chucky tries to coerce Junior into doing it or else he'll kill all of them. But as Junior is approaching Nika to do it, Tiffany lunges across the fucking room, grabs Doll Chucky by the body, and just cuts his head, saws it off his body. It's just this brutal fashion as Jennifer Tilly gives a beautiful maniacal laughter and blood. She saws his head completely off, holds it up, and tells him that not only is she tired of his tiny dick, but she is the reason that Detective Mike Norris was able to find Charles E. Ray that fateful night, November 9th, 1988 in Chicago. Now again, through all this expanded lore, you have to keep everything into consideration. Charles E. Ray was found randomly in the original Child's Play, but in Curse of Chucky we find out that he actually had this lady hold up that same night. Now, during the argument that caused Tiffany to call the police on Charles E. Ray, he straight up tells her that he's got a life outside this dump. So it lines up that Charles E. Ray would have this weird secret life with Sarah Pierce behind the scenes in this weird shack tied up. But we just don't really know about it. And because of that, when Tiffany was able to give the idea to Mike Norris who the Lakeshore Strangler was and everything, they were very easily able to track down Charles A. Ray. But that's just my theory. Brad Dourif delivers a very Child's Play 1 I'm gonna get you to Tiffany, or one of me is gonna get you, before she finally drops his head, sets up a beautiful bomb made by the finally name-dropped Glenda as a welcome for Andy Barkley. But Glenda got mentioned. So this is really interesting because Chucky's already brought up the fact that he has a gender fluid kid. And also, Glenda exists. And Tiffany actually used the pronouns of they. So are Glenn and Glenda 2 separate children, as in the ending of Seed of Chucky? Or is Glenn Glenda still one person? I hope season 2 tells us, because we still didn't get to see Glenn Glenda in this season. But I'm so happy the fact that they got referenced. Thank you so much. Tiffany ends up taking a drugged up Nika Chucky and Junior, who has taken a random Chucky doll because he just likes Chucky a lot. And they're getting out of town as she sets the bomb for whoever comes in the Charles E. Ray house, supposedly Andy Barkley, to blow up, with Devin and Chucky on the inside. And just in the nick of time, right before Chucky's able to get his body to go over to Devin to kill him because I guess he's bored, Andy comes in to save the day, and luckily, Andy's smart enough to not use the front door. Andy unties Devin and is able to get him to safety, and he interrogates Chucky, basically asking him where are the dolls, because now Andy knows that the spell worked and there are, you know, an infinite amount of Chuckies. Again, the real number 70-something, but let's just say infinite. While interrogating Chucky about where the dolls are, Kyle ends up making her way to the Charles Lee Ray home, where Chucky actually uses his good guy doll voice to trick Kyle into actually coming into the house because he's pretending to be a victim. Unfortunately, though, it seems very much so that Kyle used the front door, which tripped the sensor for the bomb that Glenda built, setting it all up and blowing up the entire fucking house with all of them inside. After a commercial break, we go back to Lexi and Jake, who wake up the next morning after their drug coffee experience from Kyle, and they look at their phones to discover that there was an explosion at Sherwood Lane, which was Charles Lee Ray's home, so the two of them pretty much assume, because fatalities are reported, that Devin has died. And you get this really nicely made, heartfelt, kind of gut-wrenching scene because you really do feel for Jake. I thought Devin was dead. I thought, again, this was our way to make Jake pretty much pay for what he brought on his little community here in the beginning, unwillingly, but to a degree, intentionally, through hanging out with Chucky. And Jake goes to his house, he's kind of sulking around in his really awesome basement bedroom room, and Devin walks in, so he's totally fine. They have a nice heartfelt kiss, and Devin pretty much tells Jake that I was able to get out of the house, but I know that Kyle and Andy were still inside, so I don't know. We're pretty much on our own now. So we are led to believe throughout the rest of the episode, to a degree, that Andy and Kyle were both killed in the explosion. We finally got our legacy characters here, and they're just like, you know what? House explosion. Fuck them. At the town theater, we can see Lexi's Mary Mom having a press conference with Jennifer Tilly, who is announcing that we are about to send out all of these charity good guy dolls to sick kids all across the country. What a bunch of lucky kids. And all this is right before Hackensack's town viewing of Frankenstein. You know, something completely appropriate with all the murder happening right now. While there, Junior and Chucky are able to beat Lexi on the inside because Junior's able to trick Lexi into coming inside because, you know, she thinks that Chucky has Junior captive. And after trailing Junior throughout what seems like the entire theater, she finally finds him to find the big reveal that he's a killer too. Junior's giving Lexi this big old spiel, basically trying to convince Lexi to join their side of killers because of how free the Junior has felt lately because of killing his dad last night, I guess. Which I do think is fair, and again, I do think kind of punctuates that these kids really gave Junior the short end of the stick as well. I mean, he didn't try to be a piece of shit, but he just kind of was. He is a kid still, so you can't help but be just a little bit selfish at that age. But through Lexi and his friend group seemingly rejecting him and all the pressure that came down from his dad and ultimately his mom killing herself, it just really became too much for Junior to handle. And in that moment, it just shows a level of psychosis where people really feel the need to take control. This is a moment where it kind of puts you in the shoes of the killer for just a brief moment. It showed how a faltered kid could become somebody like that, and it showed just how Chucky succeeded. While Caroline, her dad, and her mom and Chucky are sitting down and watching Frankenstein, I guess Chucky got a little bit bored and ends up running around through the theater before he causes a bunch of mayhem. You have this kind of gnarly sequence where Lexi's mom goes to get popcorn and comes back, and when she comes back, her husband is sitting there pretty motionless. He looks kind of, you know, pale. And you don't really know what happened to him, but you have a pretty good idea. As she puts the popcorn in front of him, blood just kind of drools and falls out of his mouth onto the popcorn as she eats that red, very irony tasting popcorn. That shit was disgusting. That was ugh. But it was so well done. She finally looks over at him, notices that he's probably fucking dead. She starts screaming and ensues a whole bunch of real panic in this movie theater and causes everybody to freak out. But just before, Chucky starts stabbing everybody in their literal assholes. What the fuck? And you have this really awesome chaotic scene out of an entire theater of people running and screaming, losing their minds. A lot of them don't even know what they're running, screaming, and basically being threatened to buy. Probably only a few of them saw it. As this little good guy doll is just shoveling through the chairs, and whoever is still seating, unfortunately, gets a big old knife up their ass or in their... wherever it goes, it's not fun. It's in slow motion, popcorn's going everywhere, Frankenstein's still playing on the TV. It's just fun chaos. And also, Lexi's mom pretty much gets knocked out and somehow doesn't get killed during all of this. And the doll they used in the sequence was beautiful. I loved how it looked in the face and everything. And a lot of the cast and crew did talk about that there was one Chucky doll that was used on the set that really freaked everybody out. And I think it has to be this, the one with the really just kind of like curdled, almost Pennywise looking smile on it with the really heavy brow as he's like shrouded underneath the chairs. He just looked evil. I loved it. Backstage, Chucky is trying and failing to still try and convince Lexi that she is a piece of shit, just like him, just like Junior, trying to get her on the side of what he calls winners. And you get this really fun moment here where, again, in the beginning of the series, every time Jake brings up how much Lexi has ridiculed or made fun of Jake, Chucky's always been like, oh my god, that's evil. How could she even think to do something like that? But right here, Chucky's on the opposite side of it, where he basically says, fuck the losers who can't take a joke. While being egged on by Lexi and both Chucky to either do it or don't do it, Junior finally breaks, lunging towards both of them. You think it's gonna be Lexi, but it's not, and Junior ends up diving into Chucky, plunging a knife directly into his chest, killing him, telling him that she's not like either of us. It kills Chucky, but I will say, I thought we had established that knives to the body don't kill Chucky, but that Chucky died, so maybe these are different Chuckies, different spell, different rules. I'm looking too much into it, I'm sorry. Unfortunately though, human bodies work a lot easier, as when Junior takes the knife to the chest from Chucky, they pretty much traded penetrations. It is really sad. Junior is laying there telling Lexi, tell everybody I'm sorry, and it's just like, yeah, you probably should be, but also they should be sorry to you. I am still convinced, I maintain, that they fucked him over at the end of this series. But I really did like Junior. I thought he was a good character. I thought he had a really good contrast with Jake and who they are in their ages, in their families, how they both juxtapose each other, and just how they both played into each other's kind of, I guess, meaner vices. Where Jake was able to rise up above the evil and not fall into all of Chucky's manipulation and lies, Junior, unfortunately, while thinking it was the act of strength, it actually wasn't, and he fell right into it. So this is just the subtext of the series, but I like that it's punctuated. I like them able to tell this through these really, really, really good young characters. And again, all of the kids killed it, and now that we know that we won't be seeing him in season 2, Teo Brianzi did incredible as Junior, and I think it's unfortunate that we only have one Wheeler left. But I do like Jake, but I'm gonna miss the rest. Devin and Jake end up making their way to the theater finally. They're able to get Caroline out of the theater in the realm of chaos before Chucky finally is able to have a one-on-one battle with Chucky. And it's a really, really fun battle where Chucky pretty much jumps on top of Jake, and they finally bring it up for the first time in the franchise, I believe the first time in the franchise, where Chucky asks, you're probably wondering, how can I be so strong for such a little doll? And Jake's like, it doesn't make sense. So they bring up right there that even though Chucky is a doll and is only about 2.5 feet tall, he does have the proportionate strength of a full-grown man. So there we go, Ant-Man. But Jake's finally able to overpower Chucky, throws him off of himself, kicks the knife to the side, and is able to pin Chucky down on the ground before grabbing him by the neck and pinning him against the wall. Now, I really like this scene because I really feel like this is where Jake is honest with everything and with himself about the situations and how it all happened with his dad, with the murders, with all of it, and with himself. Chucky's egging him on, telling him, that I kill your dad, and this is how you thank me. You were ecstatic when I killed your dad. Jake says, no, I wasn't ecstatic. I was just happy that he was never going to be able to hurt me again. But then I was pissed because I knew that my dad never had the chance to accept me. We never got a chance to fix our relationship. And I really like that. It is really true because, I think a lot of people have members in their family, at least I know that I do, who I'm more estranged from than I'd like to be. But I'm not the one that really made it like that. And again, a lot of people have instances like this where they can relate to like that. You may not like the person, they may not be your favorite, and their absence may bring you peace, but you still do miss them. You miss what they used to be. You miss who they used to be in your lives, that positive aspect to it. And when you lose the opportunity to fix or mend that relationship or fix that part of your past or however you look at it, you feel a little bit, I guess, alienated. You feel vilified. You feel like something's been taken from you. And the fact that Jake finally came to terms with that, the fact that he did accept that his dad was dead, he honestly wasn't too broken up about it, but part of him is sad because there is a whole relationship with his father that he's never going to be able to have because of Chucky. And I just like it because it's a nice moment where the big silly doll, sex show boils down and you have real characters having real feelings that you can look at and be like, oh, I get that. I've felt like that before. That's just the markers of a good TV show, y'all. But as Chucky delivers one final slur to Jake and just how gay it is, Jake does exactly what Hilary Duff in the mid-2000s would have done and takes Chucky, squeezes the life out of his little doll body as his little plastic face just bubbles up, and his eyes bleeding from the sockets just end up bulging out and fucking exploding from the skull before he drops this dead, mangled doll body. Gruesome, gross, hilarious. And that right there is, in my opinion, one of the best Chucky deaths of the entire series. Again, I think it'd be really fun if that Chucky doll was still alive. He only lost his eyes, but I guess probably all the air and probably blew up his brain or whatever. I don't know how it works. But I maintain that as far as Chucky deaths go, that one is S tier. Jake and Devin end up helping each other out of the theater after all of the chaos as the movie continues to play into the end credits with a very appropriate Universal Studios The End. They meet back up with Lexi on the outside where she pretty much tells him that Junior died and, a whole lot of people are died. And it's really sad, too, because Caroline's crying to her mom asking for her dad, and it's just sad shit, man. Tiffany's leaving the show, and you have the USX truck, which I really like that it's that actual same shipping company from Curse of Chucky still. She sends the delivery guy off to the airport, and she goes to escape in her car to go do whatever, I guess, go back to Jennifer Tilly things. And just before the delivery guy is able to leave in the van, somebody comes from the back, just destroys the dude over the steering wheel, knocks him out, throws him out, and we find that it is a beaten and scarred up Andy Barkley who survived the house explosion. He looks back at Lexi, Jake, and Devin, gives them a really good thumbs up before giving Jennifer Tilly the fucking finger and wheeling out of there with all of the good guy dolls, hopefully saving the day. And he's getting down the road and feeling really good about himself until we get finally the return in the series of doll Tiffany from the back. She breaks out the window, holds the gun to Andy, and tells him to take it to the fucking airport or else. And just a beautiful moment. Finally, you have two icons of the Child's Play franchise that have never been in the same frame together. You have doll Tiffany, the famous bride of Chucky, right here actually, face to face with Alex Vincent's Andy Barkley. Something that going into the series I didn't even know I wanted, but I did, so thank you. It also seemed like when she was in the doll body, she was using a more of a high pitch, like when she was originally Tiffany, and less of just straight up Jennifer Tilly. So I do like that between Jennifer Tilly Tiffany and doll Tiffany, there is a bit of a voice differential just to kind of separate the two characterly, I guess. The two of them right off into the sunset, into the airport. Who knows? We'll see what happens in season 2. But before the episode ties us up for the season, we catch up with everybody else just to see what they're doing in our final moments. We catch up with Tiffany and Nika Chucky, who, holy shit, that is not where I thought that was gonna go. That is not where I would have taken it, and that shit was mortifying. That entire scene with Nika and Tiffany, just, again, if you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. Holy fuck, that was disgusting. In such a really good visceral way. Again, if something fake can make you feel real feelings, make you feel genuine disgust, uneasiness, and just almost sick, like, it's pretty good. Without being violent, too. In theme, that's where you gotta get it. And they accomplish that here, because Tiffany, as Nika is waking up from her recent little syringe dose to the neck, is being told that Tiffany was afraid that mean old Chucky would come back and ruin their time together. So she said that she fixed it. Now, when Tiffany said that she fixed it, I thought maybe, did maybe she exorcise Chucky from Nika's body? Is that the way we're going? Or is it something more dastardly? Nika seems to be, something's going on. She's got something hooked up here. Did Tiffany amputate Nika's legs? So, Nika doesn't need them, so Chucky can't move? Is that what she did? Not only did Tiffany amputate Nika's legs so that she can't use them as Nika Chucky, she amputated her arms, leaving poor, broken, beaten, heroin Nika Pierce a quadriplegic completely. And the way the camera zooms out to reveal it, just the marks, the way she was hamstrung with all the bandages, the blood that's still there as she just has stumps. Oh my god, that shit is mortifying. And it's just a really dark place that I did not expect the Fun Doll Murder Show to go. That right there, that's almost body horror. That is fucked. Not only are you prisoner in your own body, but now your own body is basically useless. Like, it's sad, it's terrible. Nika is not allowed to win. In no appearance that Nika has had has she ever won. She has lost in Curse, Cult, and now the series. And I know a lot of people were not only bothered and affected and distraught by this, but they were mad, they were angry, they felt that Nika got done dirty, you just threw this character away, like what are you doing? Like, that made me sick, like, why would you do that to poor, sweet Fiona Dourif, poor Nika, like, what are you doing? And to a degree, I do get that, but I think that nothing in the Child's Play series gets done without intent. I think they always have an idea for where they want to go with it. I think there's always an idea of what we could play with that later. I don't think they do anything for shock value's sake. I think it has to have a meaning in the greater lore, because I do believe that if any creative team behind any franchise has enough care for the lore at this point in time, it is the Chucky franchise. I really do believe that Don and his team have a plan for this, and actually, since it's been so long after the episode aired, I can go ahead and say that Don Mancini has talked about Fiona Dourif's continued appearance in the series. And while yes, this is very weird, it is very fucked up, it is very terrible, and a lot to deal with, it is not something done without meaning, and he does have an idea of what he wants to do with Nika in the second series, and she's not going anywhere. At least as far as Don Mancini has said, he has said that this is not by any means the end of Nika Pierce's story, so I have to trust that. But he does talk about the fact of how much he appreciates Fiona Dourif as an actor, and she is an incredible actor, she's a great character actor, and there's how much she gets into her roles and how much she's able to sell it. There's not many roles that I've seen her in where I've not bought it. I do think she's absolutely phenomenal. And him giving her almost these new acting challenges, act as a quadriplegic, I think it's gonna be interesting, and I'm really curious to see where it's gonna go. I'm not mad, I'm curious. Because I do love Fiona Dourif, I do love the character of Nika, I do want to see her get her W one of these days, and I hope that that's not, just a damnation to her flesh. And I've seen some fan theories about what we could do with that. Could they put Nika in a new body? Maybe if you found somebody who is completely identical to Fiona Dorff, because once you get Nika out of that body, you do lose Fiona Dorff, which I do think is a lot of the reason to have that character. But one thing that I think, again, I mean, this shit is weird. I think there's going to be a point where Chucky does come back into Nika Chucky's body, and he's going to realize what's happened, that he is limbless. And there's a whole ton of random voodoo shit that they could probably do. There's probably a way for them to voodoo staple other people's dead limbs onto Nika's body. So again, I'm really curious as to what this is, what it's going to lead to, and how they can pretty much reprimand and fix it if they are. Like, what are they going to do? I don't know. We'll find out in October. But that's pretty much the end of the episode. We see Lexi, Jake, and Devin at the cemetery paying respect to the Wheelers, especially Junior. We see Miss Fairchild, which we still didn't figure much about anything about her past or anything. So again, let's go season 2. And last thing we're left with is an ominous glove against the tree. So everybody's asking, whose glove is that? And I want to say it's pretty obvious, but I don't want to say it's obvious because the moment I say it, it's not going to be that. I'm going to look stupid, but also read the room. The glove's got to be Kyle. We already had at the beginning of the previous episode where Andy left Kyle back and she actually came out and bought the gloves, so we know the two were wearing gloves. And ultimately, regardless of what happens, you know, again, the house explosion, I do find it odd that they report fatalities with the house explosion if Kyle didn't die, because then that would mean that none of them died. So what fatalities were reported? Was it the neighbors? Was it the neighbor's dog? Or was it the decomposed body of Chucky that was burnt up and found on the inside that they figured was a victim? But I do think it's safe to say that the glove is Kyle. Again, they brought back this legacy character. There is a rule in movies, basically. If you didn't see a body, they're not dead. And sometimes even when you see a body, they're not dead. So, hey, I'm pretty sure Kyle's gonna be fine, guys. Christine and Elise will be back. The episode caps off with Chucky doing his best James A. Janice and saving Dead Meat the entire trouble of having to do a kill count by having their own at the end of the season. Which I thought was fun, and I saw some people make fun of it, but again, it's fun and silly. You have to have camp with your Chucky. And I think having the last episode air around the holidays, right after Thanksgiving, right before Christmas, and you have this candleside Chucky in a nice little robe giving his kill count and his final words to the season, I thought it was appropriate. And so is the end of the first season of the very, very long-awaited Chucky television series. Now again, I do plan to revisit this series throughout the year before season 2. Again, how I did this Talk of Chucky way of making these videos is not how I anticipated to do them. So again, I hope to revisit this series in a more retrospective manner. But before that, I do want to state right here, I loved this season. This was a lot of what I wanted. It had stuff that I didn't even know I wanted. A whole lot of fanfare, a whole lot of originality, a whole lot of heart. It was so much fun. Personally, I loved it. My expectations are absolutely met. I would say to a degree, my expectations are exceeded. Mostly because I didn't expect to be enthralled by new characters as much as I was. I expected to pretty much be really only invested in the legacy characters, but the new guys really came in and stole the show. So bravo to all of them. And the show honestly was a bit more brutal than I expected. I know the first couple of episodes were a bit tame in their killings, but again, that ending scene, or that ending episode with Nika, that is fucked. Like, again, that I only watched that episode a couple of times afterwards because, like, it was haunting the first time I saw it. So, again, bravo. If you can make people feel like that about something fake, you've done something pretty correct. I thought the kills were great. I thought the way it was shot was great. I thought the music they were allowed to use was great. I just thought the way the whole thing was made was beautiful. Obviously, it was fantastic to see the return of Alex Vincent, Christine Elise, and Fiona Dorff, and obviously the immaculate return of the legendary Brad Dourif and Jennifer Tilly. They're my parents. I just thought it was all wonderful, and not just the series itself. I think the fact that they were able to kick off a brand new TV series, 8 hours of brand new content, 8 hours of Chucky, that was able to weave in with 7 existing 30 years of films to put it all together in this beautiful bow, serve it up to you every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. That right there is magic. And though I know that none of them will ever see this, I just have to say a big, big heartfelt thank you to anybody who had a hand on this series. From anybody to the crew members, to the people that brought the donuts, to Don Mancini, to Jennifer, to Brad, Alex, to Zachary Arthur, Teo Briones, all of you. You did wonderful. And just thank you so much for putting so much heart, effort, and just passion into something that I love, that a lot of the other fans love. I know that fandom is something that can be very toxic these days. I know it's something that a lot of people can really weaponize, but I try not to. I try to just purely be happy about what I've gotten with it, and the fact that the Chucky franchise is still alive, it's well, it's breathing, it's getting new stuff, and we get to look forward to season 2 in October. I'm just very thankful. So thank you so much to everybody. Thank you to USA and Sci-Fi for picking it up and paying for it, and thank you to Universal for letting them do it. And I'm pretty much running out of ways to say how much I enjoyed it, so I'll go ahead and leave it there. Chucky the TV series, I loved it. and I hope you guys loved it too. If you haven't seen it, which if you've watched this video, I'm sure you've seen it, but for whatever reason you haven't, it's streaming right now on Peacock. But what were your favorite moments? Please, guys, comment down below. I know nobody ever comments on these, but I'd still like to ask. I'd still like to talk about it. Let me know your favorite new characters, your favorite kills, your favorite stuff from the Chucky TV series, some stuff you're really hoping to see in Season 2. Just let me know. Again, I just really want to talk some Chucky. Again, sorry for it taking so long to actually make this video to talk about the last episode for anybody still watching these, but hey, I did it, and again, this is how I felt about it. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe to Fizz TV for all of the Chucky coverage coming to you in the near future, and hopefully not as long of a wait as this video took. And I'll see you right back here, in more than likely a much different format for Season 2. And until then, I'm going to be keeping my eyes forward into the very, very bright future of our favorite killer doll. But until then, my name is Fizz, and that was the first season of the Chucky TV series. Thank you for watching.